Hungry Ghost is a very different book to my two previous books. It's very, very personal. A lot of the stuff that happens in the book are things that directly happen to me. It's fictionalized because the structure of it is still very much fiction, and the like specific characters in it are wholly made up. But I really wanted to tell a story about what it's like to have an eating disorder and not be from like the dominant culture, and never really seeing like I never really saw myself whenever I saw like the Lifetime movies about eating disorders. It never really felt like the experience of it to me. And even when I would read eating disorder recovery memoirs, sometimes like there were moments that I could see like a flash of recognition, but so much of it really felt like we were just gawking at like train wreck, what's it called? It's like drug recovery memoirs where you're like, I just want to see like what's rock bottom look like, you know? And I felt I didn't feel that way. I didn't want to write a book like that. I just wanted something that could explain what it felt like emotionally to have this obsession with food in your body. So yeah, like, and it was inspired by a trip to Europe. I went to France for a couple months when I was in high school, and it was like a school field trip, very similar to what happens in the book. Yeah, my father did die in a plane crash. That conversation at the end, which is like kind of the climax of the book, that is almost a verbatim conversation that I had with my own mother. And that was the moment that I was like, no, I need to write this book. I took that moment, that climax, and I actually like started going backwards from that. I'm like, okay, like how do I tell this story and have that be the moment? Like this is the climactic end all be all of like where I want the character to go emotionally. And oddly, like that's kind of how City of Secrets was too. Like I had a dream that was the climax of City of Secrets, and then I worked backwards to be like, okay, who are these characters? How did they get here? So yeah, Hungry Ghost is a very different book from that, just because it is so based on my own experiences and kind of unflinchingly in that way. But I also wanted to make sure that the artwork felt very different, which is a little bit of a challenge because I'm like, I want my readers to come with me, but at the same time, I know that the genres are very different, the stories are very, very different, but they're both a part of me. And yeah, so I really do appreciate that about both sides. Obviously, like graphic novels, because they're so labor intensive, I can only do about one book every couple of years. Like I can do one book a year, but I'm kind of going back and forth between simply illustrating and then writing and illustrating. So yeah, I'd love to redo prose. I'm constantly doing prose projects. I wrote 4 novels during the pandemic. But they're not novels that anyone has seen, and they're just, you know, projects that I wrote for myself, but they are things that I would love to one day see published. So yeah, like I still work in prose. I love prose. I think it's very fun. I definitely know that like my abilities in prose, I need to keep working on that craft. So yeah, I'd love to return to it. Plus, you know, I just want to be able to tell more stories, no matter what format that is. I just have all these stories inside of me, and I want to be able to get them out in the world. And comics are great. I love comics. When I'm doing my little thumbnails and, you know, planning out panels and stuff, that's like, I'm so happy doing that. But at the same time, like I would just love to also do prose, because there's such like a different communion with prose that you have with your reader than with comics. And yeah, I love both, but I would love to eventually publish a prose novel.